live webcams, I started writing about that as a magazine assignment, and I went into it thinking there was going to be nothing that interesting, that it was just like the peep show taken onto the internet, and it was performers taking off their clothes and masturbating for money, and not much of a story. But then when I began interviewing the performers, many of them were on there for money, but they also were on there for a kind of self-education, or some of them found it liberating. One young person defined herself as internet sexual, which meant she was more comfortable having sexual interactions that were mediated online instead of in person. And that
was she the virgin?
Yeah, Edith. Yeah, and yeah, but this was most of the people that I interviewed for that, and they were all on this site called Chatterbait, which was one of many live webcam sites, but this kind of free-for-all because the barrier to entry was very low. And yeah, most of the people I interviewed for that chapter had not gone to college. Many of the people started doing it because they had to stay home and take care of somebody in their family that was sick, usually they were caretakers of some kind, and yet I learned a lot about sexual embodiment, how to teach yourself to do things, how to find liberation online. They weren't just doing it for money, is what I mean to say. And also, many of them saw the work as, in many ways, more dignified than a service job at Starbucks or whatever, because they were in charge of their lives. And then this other group of people I spent time with, and a lot of the book takes place in San Francisco because that has or had the reputation of being the most sexually avant-garde place, like this very earnest place where everybody talks to you about their personal journey, and so it's good to go there as a reporter. And I got there, and this is old news now, but this new corporate culture of the West Coast of, people that were making more money than anybody had ever made, really. And within that corporate culture, combining these countercultural ideas about psychedelic drug use, sexual experimentation, just personal exploration and stuff like that. So I found these group of people in their 20s, these very, rich kids really, who had gone to fancy colleges and were undertaking this open relationship experiment that they did using spreadsheets and having these weekends where they would go off to hotels or to Burning Man, and they would have parties, where they would use different drugs to help them experience different things. And I guess what was interesting to me is to compare these two is, people, sexual experimentation is not a class-limited project, but people do it in different ways, and their exploration is affected by their economic circumstances, I guess, yeah.